What if everything you thought you knew about African leadership, justice, and truth was a carefully crafted lie? What if the so-called rat invasion of Nigeria's presidential villa was nothing but a smokescreen to hide a dying president? What if the very government that detained Nnamdi Kanu based on conspiracy theories has just confirmed those theories in broad daylight? And what if a 92-year-old man still clinging to power in Cameroon is being quietly propped up by foreign influence in plain sight? This is not fiction. This is the real story unfolding right now, and it changes everything. From Finland's refusal to extradite Simon Yoka Ekpa and their demand for justice, without political pressure, to the London hospital revelation that Muhammadu Buhari may have quietly passed away, to the resurfacing of war crimes, historical lies, and a haunting tweet about treating people in the language they understand. The truth is finally catching up. And now the indigenous people of BIAFRA are demanding answers the world can no longer ignore. Stay with us, because once you hear this full story, you will never look at Africa's leaders or the system the same way again. The judicial process is now expected to last until the end of 2025 due to Finland's strict legal system, cross-border evidence complications, and political sensitivity surrounding the charges. A verdict is no longer expected by the end of July 2025. As earlier believed, there will be no extradition to Nigeria. Finland must conduct a thorough investigation using evidence from Nigeria, including social media posts, which slows the process due to translation, verification, and differing legal frameworks. The indigenous people of BIAFRA IPOB reacted strongly to recent comments by Garbashu, the former spokesperson to Muhammadu Buhari, who admitted that the rat invasion of Aso Rock in 2017 was a cover-up to distract Nigerians from Buhari's critical health condition. IPOB says this validates Nnamdi Kanu's earlier claims and calls for his unconditional release. Paul Biya of Cameroon, age 92, declared his intention to run for an 8th term as president, having ruled since 1982. This sparked global criticism and raised questions about France's influence, with Dr. David Matsanga and BBC Africa expressing outrage over the development. 2 Nigerians in the UK visited the London clinic to confirm Muhammadu Buhari's reported death. Staff reportedly confirmed that Buhari had been in intensive care for about 2 weeks before his passing, sparking questions about the cost and source of funds for his treatment abroad. Historical tension resurfaced as a tweet recirculated about Muhammadu Buhari's alleged role in atrocities during the Biafran War. Research shows Buhari served in active combat roles during the war, and his past 2021 tweet warning of treating denters in the language they understand reignited backlash. The story surrounding Simon Yoka Ekpa's legal case in Finland has taken a dramatic and complicated turn, reshaping everything that observers and followers previously expected. What was once anticipated to be resolved by the end of July 2025 has now been extended to possibly continue until the end of the year. This change is not only a legal delay, but a shift in the entire political and judicial landscape surrounding Simon Yoka Ekpa, the indigenous people of BIAFRA, and the governments involved, including Finland and Nigeria. The core of the problem lies in how complex international legal processes can be when they involve digital evidence, political sensitivities, and cross-border accusations. Simonu Eka, who lives in Finland and has been an active voice in the Biafran self-determination movement, is accused of using social media to incite actions that allegedly led to unrest in Nigeria. However, Finland is known for having one of the most thorough and carefully structured legal systems in the world. This means the Finnish court cannot simply take accusations at face value or act based on the political climate of another country. Everything must be examined closely, and evidence must meet strict standards. One of the key complications is that most of the evidence being used against Simon Yoka Ekpa comes from Nigeria. These include social media posts, voice recordings, video messages, and other digital content. For Finland to consider this evidence in its court system, it must first be officially translated, verified for authenticity, and reviewed to ensure it does not violate the Finnish constitution or legal norms. This process is time-consuming and expensive. Each tweet or video must be translated accurately, not just in language, but also in context. A statement that sounds aggressive in English or Igbo might not be legally considered incitement under Finnish law. This legal gap between 2 very different countries slows everything down. Another factor that caused the delay is that Finland has refused to extradite Simon Yoka Eka to Nigeria. Nigeria had hoped that Finland might allow them to take over the case and try him within their own legal system. But Finland firmly declined. Their legal principles do not allow a person to be handed over to a country where there is a risk of unfair trial, political persecution, or human rights abuse. Investigating the case on its own soil. This commitment to human rights and legal thoroughness is admirable, but it also adds to the time. While Simon Joko Eka's case was unfolding, something unexpected happened back in Nigeria. Gubra Shehu, who was once the official spokesperson to former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, made a surprising confession. He admitted that in 2017, the story about rats invading the presidential villa known as Aso Rock was a lie. It was a cover-up. At that time, the public was told that the president could not work from his office because rats had damaged the furniture during his medical leave. Many people laughed about it, some believed it, but most just moved on. Now, Garbashis says the truth was that the story was made up to distract Nigerians from the fact that Muhammadu Buhari was critically ill. This revelation has caused a storm. The indigenous people of BIAFRA, also known as IPOB, responded to this confession with strong emotions. IPOB supporters have always claimed that the Nigerian government lied to its citizens and covered up many things, including the real condition of Muhammadu Buhari. The leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, was among the first to say that Buhari was seriously ill or possibly even dead. At the time, he was mocked and labeled a conspiracy theorist. But now, the admission by Garbashu gives new weight to those claims. IPOB sees this as a full validation of everything Nnamdi Kanu said years ago, and they are now calling for his unconditional release. Nnamdi Kanu is still in detention under heavy security. He is facing several charges in Nigeria and, despite multiple legal efforts, he has not been freed. IPOB argues that if the government could lie about something as serious as the health of the president, then they are also capable of framing innocent people. They believe that Nnamdi Kanu's arrest and detention were never about justice, but about silencing a movement. The recent confession by Gubra Shehu, they say, proves this point. While Nigerians were still trying to digest that shocking confession, another headline made the rounds. Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, who is now 92 years old, declared that he intends to run for an 8th term in office. Paul Biya has been in power since 1982, making him one of the longest-serving presidents in the world. This announcement sparked outrage not only within Cameroon but across Africa and in the international community. Critics say that Paul Biya's continued hold on power represents the failure of democracy and the dangers of unchecked leadership. Many observers pointed fingers at France, Cameroon's former colonial ruler, for allegedly propping up Paul Biya's regime. Dr. David Matsanga, an African political analyst, expressed his deep disappointment and warned that this was a clear sign of neo-colonialism. The British Broadcasting Corporation Africa team also echoed this concern, raising alarm over the implications of such long-term leadership without meaningful change. At the same time, a separate but related incident took place in London. 2 Nigerians living in the United Kingdom visited the London Clinic, the same hospital where former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari reportedly received medical care. These visitors claimed that staff at the hospital confirmed that Muhammadu Buhari had passed away. According to them, Buhari was in the intensive care unit for about 2 weeks before his death. Although this report has not been officially confirmed, it has already caused another wave of confusion and speculation. People are asking serious questions. If Muhammadu Buhari died, why has the government not made any announcement? Who paid for his treatment abroad? Was public money used for this? Why was his medical situation kept so secret? This alleged death of Muhammadu Buhari has reopened old wounds in Nigeria. People are revisiting a tweet he made in 2021 when he said that dissenters would be treated in the language they understand. This statement was widely criticized at the time for sounding authoritarian and threatening. When combined with the reports of his involvement in the Biafran War as a military officer, it paints a picture of a man whose leadership was shaped by a hard military style. During the civil war between Nigeria and the defunct Biafran Republic from 1967 to 1970, Muhammadu Buhari reportedly served in active combat zones. Many Bapans believe that he was part of atrocities committed during the war. The resurfacing of his old tweet and the historical records of his military service have led many to question whether he ever changed or simply brought a military mindset into his presidency. All of these events are connected in subtle but powerful ways. The delay in Simon Nyoko Ekpa's legal case in Finland, the confession by Garbashu, the renewed calls for Nami Kanu's release, Paul B's bid for an 8th term, and the unconfirmed report of Muhammadu Buhari's death together show how Africa is still struggling with issues of leadership, accountability, and justice. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a bigger story about how past lies, unresolved history, and political manipulation continue to shape the present. As for solutions, there are a few paths forward for Finland and Nigeria. There must be closer cooperation in handling legal evidence. This could involve creating special translation and authentication teams that speed up the court process without compromising accuracy. For Nigeria, the government needs to be honest with its people. If Muhammadu Buhari is dead, there must be a clear and truthful statement about when and where it happened and who paid for the medical bills. This kind of transparency is the only way to rebuild public trust. Nami Kanu's case should also be reviewed in light of the recent admissions. A fair and independent judicial review could determine whether his arrest was politically motivated or not. In Cameroon, the international community must push for electoral reform. Countries like France should stop supporting long-term rulers at the expense of democracy. The African Union can also step in to demand fair and open elections. Finally, Nigeria must come to terms with its history. The civil war and the pain it caused are still fresh in the minds of many. A national reconciliation process similar to truth commissions in other countries could help heal these wounds. People want acknowledgement, not silence. They want justice, not erasure. The time has come for Nigeria and its neighbors to stop burying the past and start learning from it. In the end, this story is not just about Simon Nyoko Ekpa, Nami Kanu, Muhammadu Buhari, or Paul Biya. It is about the struggle for truth in a world where lies have become too common. It is about justice in a time of silence. It is about the power of people to demand better from those who lead them. The road to change is long, but every step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to a better and more just society. This is a story that goes beyond courtrooms and politics. It touches the human spirit, memory, and our collective struggle for truth and justice. The prolonged legal proceedings against Simon Nyoko Ekpa in Finland are more than just courtroom hearings. They have become a symbol of the global struggle over free speech, activism, international law, and political accountability. From his residence in Finland, Simon Nyoko Ekpa had broadcast messages urging Bapans to defend their land, protect their identity, and resist what he called the military and political oppression of the Nigerian state. Some called him a hero. Others called him dangerous. But whatever side one stands on, it is clear that Simon Nyoko Ekpa stirred deep emotions in Nigeria, especially in the southeast. The Finnish government found itself caught between two powerful pressures. On one hand, there were demands from Nigeria for his extradition and punishment. On the other hand, there were local and international human rights groups urging caution, asking Finland not to bow to political pressure. The courts in Finland chose to follow their laws without interference. This meant that they had to collect real evidence, verify its source, confirm its meaning, and then test it against Finnish legal standards. The fact that this includes material posted online, often in Igbo or Nigerian Pidgin English, makes the work slow and highly technical. Behind closed doors, teams of legal translators, technology experts, and legal analysts in Helsinki are spending months reviewing content line by line. Each word from Simon Nyoko Ekpa's posts must be studied. Did he incite violence? Or was he simply using passionate language to express political opinion? In a country like Finland, where freedom of speech is protected, but incitement to violence is punished, the line is thin and must be treated with care. Any error could damage the credibility of the courts. Any rush could turn a legal process into a political disaster. Meanwhile, back in Nigeria, the admission by Gubra Shahu that the rat invasion of Oso Rock was a lie has lit a fire in the minds of many Nigerians. It wasn't just about the rats. It was about the trust that was broken. When a government lies about something as basic as the health of its president, it creates a deep wound in the national conscience. What else was hidden? Who else was involved in those decisions? Why was the truth not shared with the people? This moment of national reflection has spilled into the streets, mosques, churches, university campuses, and homes across Nigeria. People are asking whether the image of Muhammadu Buhari they were shown after his return from the United Kingdom in 2017 was really him. Rumors have grown again that he may have been replaced by a body double. A theory long denied by government officials, but believed by many who felt something about his appearance, speech, and mannerisms had changed. Whether true or not, the damage of distrust has already been done. In Umuahia, Aba, Enugu, Onitsha, and even as far as Port Harcourt, young Biafran are seeing Garbash's confession as confirmation that Nnamdi Kanu was never mad, never deluded, but simply ahead of his time. They recall how Nnamdi Kanu raised the alarm about the deception surrounding the presidency. They remember how he was laughed at, insulted, and finally arrested. Now those same accusations are being confirmed by those who once denied them. The indigenous people of BIAFRA has gained renewed strength. Their demands are no longer seen as radical, but as rooted in truth. This has created serious discomfort within the corridors of power in Abuja. The government is now facing a complex choice. If it ignores the confession, it will appear indifferent to truth. If it acknowledges it, it must face the consequences of lies told to millions. Within the judiciary, there are quiet debates among judges and lawyers about whether Nnamdi Kanu deserves a fresh trial or even a full pardon. The Ministry of Justice has received petitions from civil society groups calling for a reassessment of his detention, but others, including military officials and political hardliners, argue that doing so would encourage more separatist movements. Far from Nigeria, the winds of political unrest are also blowing across Cameroon. Paul Biya's declaration that he intends to run for an 8th term has left many in disbelief. At 92 years old, his continued rule is being described as unnatural and dangerous for a country facing economic stress, separatist violence in its English-speaking regions, and a youth population demanding change. At the heart of the anger is the idea that a whole generation of Cameroonians has never known another leader. Paul Biya has become the face of stagnation and political inertia. The reaction in the international community has been mixed. France has been cautious in its statements, but critics argue that it has supported Paul Biya for decades in exchange for economic and military cooperation. Dr. David Matsanga, speaking during a media broadcast, said that what is happening in Cameroon is a betrayal of African democracy. He said France cannot preach democracy in Ukraine while ignoring dictatorship in Yond. The British Broadcasting Corporation Africa team raised similar concerns. Why is there such silence around Cameroon's elections? Why are African leaders allowed to hold on to power for life? At the same time, the news coming out of London is causing quiet panic within diplomatic circles. If Muhammadu Buhari did pass away in the London clinic, and if this has not been disclosed to the public, then it raises troubling questions about governance, secrecy, and accountability. The 2 Nigerians who visited the hospital said they spoke to staff, who confirmed that Buhari had died after 2 weeks in intensive care. Though the hospital has not issued an official statement, the Nigerian High Commission in London has refused to comment. This silence only makes the rumors grow louder. In the social media space, the matter has gone viral. Hashtags like Buhari is dead and who is in Aso Rock are trending on Twitter and Instagram. WhatsApp groups are filled with forwarded voice notes claiming everything from secret burial sites in Saudi Arabia to the involvement of foreign intelligence services. It's chaotic, emotional, and messy. But it reflects the confusion that comes when governments hide the truth. As Nigerians reflect on all these things, they also return to the painful memories of the Biafran War. The revelation that Muhammadu Buhari served as a combat officer during the war combined with his harsh 2021 tweet about Dentas reminds many of the dark days when entire communities were wiped out, children starved, and families fled their homes in terror. For the Igbo people, this is not ancient history. It is living memory. Grandparents still tell the stories. Mothers still carry the pain. And now the man who once fought in that war and later ruled Nigeria has become the center of a national identity crisis. This emotional storm affects not just individuals, but the soul of the nation. Nigeria stands at a crossroad. Should it bury the past and move on? Or should it confront the lies, seek justice, and begin the long process of healing? Back in Finland, Simon Ekpa continues to make occasional statements through his legal team. He says he is being targeted not because of anything he did wrong, but because he dared to speak up for BIAFRA. He argues that the Nigerian government cannot silence the call for freedom. His lawyers say that the Finnish legal system should not be used to support a foreign government's political agenda. Supporters across Europe and America are holding vigils and rallies demanding his release. What happens next will shape not just the future of one man, but the soul of two nations. If Simon Ekpa is found guilty, it could discourage other diaspora activists from speaking out. If he is found innocent, it will empower movements for self-determination across Africa. If Nnamdi Kanu is freed, it will shake the Nigerian political system. If he remains in detention, IPOB is likely to grow more determined. In the midst of all this, one thing is clear. The people are watching. The world is watching. And history is taking note. Every confession, every tweet, every courtroom decision is being recorded in the hearts of millions. Truth has become a currency. Justice has become a demand, and silence for many is no longer an option.